Hello, myself Meduri Harshith Chowdary. My roll number is 21CS10042. I'm from section 6 and Group A. For my third DIY project, I have done disassembly and reassembly of my computer. This is my 11-year-old computer, which my dad bought in my third standard. These are its components: the CPU, monitor, keyboard, and the mouse. Now let me turn on the computer and see if it works. I hope it works, or else the whole project would not be possible. Thank God, I think it's turning on. Now I'll quickly turn off the computer and remove all the connections between CPU, monitor, mouse and the keyboard, and start disassembling the CPU. Now let's start the disassembly of the CPU. Let me grab some tools and here we go. I started by removing the two side plates by removing the screws. Here's one side which is completely covered with the metal part and also the back side of the motherboard, and we can't see anything from this side. This is the other side of the CPU, and from this side we can clearly see the motherboard and all the components, the power supply, motherboard, the DVD player and all. Now let me remove the power supply from the metal core and show it separately. This is the power supply box which converts the AC current into DC, and as you can see, the specifications are clearly mentioned on the label. And now you can see the motherboard and all its components: the processor, the CPU fan, CPU cooling fan, and a lot of wires which connect power supply to the motherboard to the local disk, motherboard to the CD or DVD player and all. And this is the RAM. Let's have a look of the inside from different angles. Now we can see the inputs to the motherboard, like two traditional old mouse and keyboard inputs, two display inputs, 4 USB ports and Ethernet connection along with 3 aux ports. This is the top view of the processor. We cannot see the processor exactly because of the fan, and from here we will zoom into different components in different places of the motherboard. Now we can see how the external inputs are being connected to the processor through the circuits on motherboards, and there are many circuit elements on the motherboard. Now on, I'll be showing different parts of motherboards in different angles and all the circuit elements. These are some major wired connections between different components which are connected externally inside the CPU box. This is the RAM again in another angle, and through this bunch of wires the power is supplied from the power supply box to the motherboard. This is another cooling fan which is specially meant for the power supply box, and you can see its ratings like a 12 volt, 0.13 ampere and all. Let's have a quick look on all the components of motherboard and start reassembling. I have put back the power supply box in its position as it was earlier, and checked the connections of wires, like if there is anything disconnected while I was showing, and started fixing with the screws. completely reassembled the CPU, and now we have to reassemble the computer and see if it's working. I've made the connections between CPU, monitor, mouse, and keyboard quickly, and now I'm gonna start the computer after reassembling it. This is my computer after disassembly and reassembly, and now I'll start the computer. As you can see, it is clearly working after disassembly and reassembly, and now I'm almost into the login page and I am here. Thank you.